welcome back to Beating a Dead Horse. And much to your chagrin, I am not Laurie McKinda, but I am in fact Sean McKinda.
And much to everyone else's chagrin, I am not in fact Autumn Keller, but I am Jackson Keller, the grocery store brand. I'm the asylum version of Autumn Keller. Like, you go to the video store and you think you're picking up Pacific Rim, but in actuality they've made Atlantic Rim to try and cash in on the hype and trick grandmas into paying for the movie. So that's who I am.
And I'll take Transmorphers just to really round us out, you know? If we're going to do fighting robots, we're going to do fighting robots.
I will say, they've been getting sneakier because Haley actually got tricked by I don't know if it was an asylum film, but it was in that vein, because there was a movie came out that was pretty acclaimed called Prodigy or The Prodigy. It's one or the other.
Yeah, she was talking about this on our Pet Cemetery episode.
Oh, right. Yeah, she got asylumed. So let's get an F for Haley in chat here, folks.
Check your movies before you go home, guys. Like, you check your keys, you check your wallet, you check your phone, you check your movie to make sure it's not made by Asylum. Important things to do.
What the fuck were we talking about?
This has been a fucking nightmare of an intro. This is goddamn nothing. We've been just talking about fucking trash. Oh my god. And speaking of fucking trash, let's talk about Detective Pikachu, which is a charming, great movie.
I was gonna say, I don't think it's trash. I don't think that's a suitable lead-in. I loved it. I really, really liked it a lot, more than I was expecting to, and I was charmed and delighted and thrilled. And every time there was a Charmander on screen, I squealed, and that was great.
Obviously, it's a very charming, very solid movie. It is, however, still in fact fucking trash. For Zero Glalie and Zero Tropius, which are the only two Pokemon that actually matter in the Pokemon universe. And so you can just throw it in the fucking trash.
Sean over here with these galaxy brain takes. Get this man a thermometer because his takes are on fire.
I will say they did have a couple of Pokemon I liked, a couple of later gen ones in the background. Like you could see Golurk at one point, which I really like. And Emolga showed up more than once, which is great because it's just little Pokemon Batman, and I love them.
The background Pokemon, I feel like generally speaking, there was a nice mix of the gens and the eras. And like as far as the actual plot relevant ones go, it definitely relied a lot more on the Gen 1 Pokemon, which I get, speaking as an aging, nostalgia-riddled moron.
An aging, nostalgia-riddled moron sitting alone, waiting to die.
Exactly. So obviously I had zero problem with the, heavy focus on the Gen 1 boys and girls, but I get it, beyond that, because, Gen 1 was when Pokemon was the fad, the sensation, Pokemon is popular now. It's the most profitable media franchise of all time, but it definitely isn't in the cultural consciousness that it was in the 90s, except for maybe that those first couple months Pokemon Go came out. It had a similar sort of cultural impact, but I get it. This is made for a mainstream audience. There are moms are more likely to recognize Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Mewtwo, etc. Because those are the ones your grandma and grandpa know, if they know anyone. So yeah, that's why it's so Gen 1 heavy. But I also was pleased in the background by a lot of the more obscure Pokemon featured in the background. I particularly enjoyed a Octillery running a sushi chef stall.
God, you said that, it's the Pokemon that your mom will know. And, at first blush, I'm like, oh, yeah, because, it's the type of Pokemon that my mom would know because, I grew up playing it. And then I realized that, like, the same thing can be said for the little kids that are in there with you. Because they are the Pokemon that your mom would know, because your mom would have grown up with Gen 1.
Welcome to the existential terror episode of Beating a Dead Horse. We're aging millennials, and how are you?
It's starting to show. The cracks are forming. God. No, let's actually talk about the fucking movie, though, because we've kind of danced around it. We've talked about the Pokemon that aren't there, and, the travesty that is Tropius. My sweet banana neck boy. But the rest of the movie's actually really good. The Pokemon in general, I really like that they kind of feel almost incidental. Like, it's more of a story that takes place in the Pokemon world with Pokemon rather than like a Pokemon story. Like, it's not like the animated movies where it's clearly about like Pokemon battling and, heart and friendship and stuff. It feels much more like a detective story that just happens to take place in Pokemon and involving Pokemon, which I think will really help a lot with a wider appeal to the film itself, just because you don't need to know like type advantages and stuff going into this. You're not like, ooh, this Charizard will be weak against that Rhydon because it's the bad rock man. And this is like, it's a very accessible movie, and even if you're not familiar with the franchise, I think it will work for you in a lot of ways. We're gonna talk about whether we think it will actually work for a general audience in a minute here. But like, I think the idea behind it working for a general audience is there, and I think it works pretty well in that regard. It's enjoyable. There's a couple of good chuckles. There's, that heart that you look for anyway. Like, it's not exclusive to anime, people. It's in the kids' shows too. And it hits all the right notes for the nostalgia ridden, and I think even those who might not be.
Yeah, so I want to really agree that I too am glad that they took this direction to do like the detective story and just having a story in a Pokemon world as opposed to a Pokemon story, because I think that not only does that make it better for a general audience, it also, as a Pokemon fan, allows me to kind of experience the world in a way that like the games and the anime either can't or won't allow me to. And it feels like I'm seeing a different side of it, and it's a lot more fun, and it really adds to the cozy atmosphere of being like, I'm just gonna get out of the way here, folks. I love this movie almost entirely for good feel nostalgia versions. I'm not even going to pretend to be unbiased here. The story is absolutely like a family film, a very well-made family film, I would say, but none of it's going to be too surprising. None of it's going to be too mind-blowing. But I did indeed clap when I saw it many times. So that's about where I'm at. Not even going to pretend. We already like shit upon the concept of objectivity in art, but like I'm taking an extra heavy duty dump on that concept here today. I wanted my cute Charmanders, and I squealed every time I saw someone walking a Growlithe. So that's me.
Oh my god, the Growlithes were fucking adorable. I don't know. I have a theory, like, as I was watching them, I wonder if they took like corgis or something and just like green screened over them, like CGI'd over them, because like they're low enough to the ground that they look like they could have been corgis, and I was real into it.
No, they were perfect doggos, perfect puppers. I wanted to pet them. I wanted to live in the world with Pokemon. Bulbasaur, we're still in pre-spoiler discussion. You see Bulbasaur early on, and there's a scene that was in the trailer. We see a lot of them prominently, and it made me squeal with joy. The Pokemon designs, I think, do kind of like you had said. Was that on a previous episode or a stream? You had said that like the only good thing to come out of the Crimes of Grindelwald was when we saw it and saw the Detective Pikachu trailer for the first time on the big screen and got more of the appeal.
Yeah, it's really hard to get why you would want to see this movie when you're watching it on like your phone or your home computer, I felt. Because like it didn't, there's a certain like the movie's clearly kind of a noir, like a detective noir, and it's kind of going for that realism. So like everything feels kind of gritty, but also real, and like it's really easy to miss that on the computer, or like it doesn't have the same punchiness that I feel like it does in an actual theater. So like if that's your big hold off, maybe go take a look at it. Because like even Mr. Mime looked pretty good in it, and he was a terrifying hell monstrosity, but he fits.
They even clearly acknowledged how fucking terrifying Mr. Mime was. Like Pikachu was even like, "Oh, I hate these guys," which is referring to the fact that like even by Pokemon standards, he speaks in mime, and it was a really bizarre scene that I was super into, like how they all.
Oh my god, yeah, no, like I don't give it away because the scene is genuinely wonderful.
Yeah, like if you. They did a good job of like highlighting like kind of what the bit is about in the trailer, but there's more to it. So I really enjoyed those kind of sequences.
It got way darker than I was expecting it to.
Yeah,
like it kind of set up. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know what they're going for here. It's an interrogation, and then it started to take a direction, and I'm like, pardon me. Pardon me?
I will say that like those are the moments I think that make it like even beyond just being like completely starry-eyed nostalgia suckered in by live action Pokemans. Like those are the moments that make it a enjoyable kids movie on its own terms, and that it's got kind of the like Shrek like wink to the adults in the audience moments that'll be more funny for the older people while still being in the realms of the PG like you know core audience, and that's it's working its magic in that way, and I think that helps a lot too.
So I guess the question then is, do you think the rest of the movie will work for a more general audience as well? Because I've been like mulling this over for a couple of days now, just trying to decide whether I think it works outside of the nostalgia. Because I obviously it's going to be really hard for us to talk about this one in any real capacity, just given that we are totally nostalgia blinded. We're still playing Pokemon literally like right now. So it's obviously going to be tricky for us. But I feel like this is just going to come across as a pretty overwhelmingly average kids movie to a lot of adults. Like, there's definitely going to be the moments. Like, I think the Mr. Mime scene could elicit a good chuckle or two if they can get over the horror that is Mr. Mime. Because, like, I think that's the other thing, too, is that for us, we're like, oh, he's horrible, but he's always been horrible. So we're almost conditioned to see this guy and be like, yeah, he fucking sucks, but that's who he is. So I'm curious to know as well, like, would someone who is unfamiliar with the source material just be like, oh, yeah, he fucking sucks, and I hate this whole thing as a direct result?
Yeah, the thing that, you know, who are in tune to the whole Pokemon thing often forget is, like, just how fucking weird Pokemon is and how we take that for granted because it's been such, like, a cultural monolith for so long. I'm tempted to... basically, my gut feeling is this. The kids, I think, will love it. I think they'll be really into it because a lot of them do still play Pokemon. Like I said, it hasn't exactly had the same cultural pull that it did in the 90s, but it's the biggest media franchise of all time for a reason, and that reason is mostly under 12.
I want to just mention, because you mentioned that it's the biggest media franchise and like it doesn't have the same pull. I think the difference is that at the time in the 90s, it was a huge pop culture. It was like a literal pop.
It was a fad more than anything, or seen as a fad that like had surprising staying power.
Well, I was gonna say, what it is now is it's no longer a fad. It's more like a part of life. You know, it's kind of like candy. It's everywhere. It's something that's there. I don't think it's so much that it definitely doesn't have that same pop that it necessarily did in the 90s, but like the yearly or bi-yearly Pokemon releases are still a huge fucking deal. Like,
of course.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I don't want to minimize Pokemon's influence before somebody gets at us like, well, it's still selling billions of dollars, and yeah, I know, I already have Sword pre-ordered, thank you.
Yeah, and I guess that's good to reiterate. Like, obviously, it's It is the biggest media franchise of all time, but I feel like it's in a weird position in that, like, it's not like, other, if you look at the rest of that list, you go find, like, the other, like, media franchises that are up there, like Star Wars or the MCU, where, like, everyone can tell you, like, most people with, like, an interest in movies at all have probably seen at least one Star Wars or one MCU movie. Whereas, like, Pokemon, despite being so big, because it's seen so much as like a kid thing, there is zero crossover between, like, people who were born, like, if you weren't young enough to be into it, like, when it first appeared, or, like, when, like, or afterwards, like, if you were born during the, like, if they already existed by the time that you were a kid, like, playing with toys and games and stuff, like, no 40-year-old gives a fuck about Pokemon. Like, it's strictly a, like, older, it's strictly, like, a millennial and under thing, which I think is interesting. And also the fact that, like, I guess this is also true of, like, Star Wars and stuff, and that, there's the surface level stuff that a lot of people know about, and then, like, I think particularly because it has so much crossover with, like, anime generally, and it was, like, one of the big factors in, like, making anime a thing in the West, that there's so much weird crossovers with, like, subcultures. What was I talking about? We were talking about whether this would work for a general audience.
Yes, we were. So please continue with that.
I guess, like, after that long detour about, like, Pokemon's weird place in everyone's lives, like I said, I think the kids will love it. I think that the nostalgic fucks like us, like, there will be a few, like, I've talked to a few people who didn't like it, who didn't like the designs, and I think there will be a fair number of people like that, but overwhelmingly I think this will play pretty well with the, like, aging millennials. But as far as, like, the parents who are taking the kids to the movie, I mean, I think there's a chance they might be outright completely lost. Like, there are a couple of gags. Like, there's one involving a Magikarp, where, like, that as a Pokemon fan, like, it's pretty funny and you know what it's setting up, but, like, I'm picturing that same gag, from the perspective of someone who doesn't know what the hell a Magikarp is, and suddenly seeing it, like, turn into a giant fucking fish dragon and being like, what the hell is going on right now?
Also, whoa, spoilers. We don't know that Magikarp evolves into Gyarados until level 20.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, no, like, I think there's just going to be a disconnect. Like, I think this is going to be a better than average kids movie for a lot of people, for a lot of parents that go with them. Like, I feel like it's not going to be, like, I don't fucking know. I was going to say Alpha and Omega for whatever goddamn reason, but I have no idea whether how good of a kids movie that was. What B movie? Is that like an average kids movie?
B movie's kind of weird though. B movie's kind of out there.
Yeah, I'm just like, all right, fucking generic ass kids movie. It's gonna be better than your generic kids movie that we've already forgotten about. It's gonna be better than your Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah, there you go.
Boom, I got there. It took me 30 seconds of meandering, but I got there. So yeah, is there anything else you really want to talk about pre-spoiler?
I mean, I could start going down my CinemaSins hole of pedantic Pokemon fan bullshit, which is what the rest of the episode's gonna be. Sorry, guys. But
whoa. I have a couple of legitimate criticisms. We should clarify. This isn't just going to be that. I'll sprinkle in some, like, actual things so you feel your brain growing a little bit in between the times that Jackson shrinks it by going, actually, Magikarp evolves at level 21. Excuse you.
No! Please don't bully me. Let's just get to fucking spoilers already.
Alright, well, hey, before we do, next week we'll be back over at twitch.tv/helpless_skippy for a live recording. We'll be talking about Final Fantasy VII, the seminal Final Fantasy game that everyone swears by and loves, that neither Jackson and I had played up until this recording. So come back for that, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, twitch.tv/helpus_Skippy, and the full episode will be up on the usual time on Thursday if you can't make it. But if you can, we do like Q&As afterwards. So if you want to ask us questions like, what the fuck is wrong with you? How did you not play Final Fantasy until 2019? You absolutely can.
It's gonna be a great time, and I'll be less of a caveman in that episode, I promise.
Actually, Sephiroth doesn't learn Magna Carta until level 22.
Magna Carta. Oh, no.
All right, let's actually talk about Pokemon. And Jackson, please just start us off.
I was gonna say I'll trot out all my dumb bullshit first. I say all my dumb bullshit, but I'm gonna save my dumbest bullshit for last because it's the closest thing I have to a real talking point today. So although I guess if I had I do have perhaps one. I don't know if I'd say just one, but like the criticism that I want to bring to the table probably overlaps quite heavily with your overlapping actual criticism. So I'll save that for last and segue. So with my time for Jackson Keller's Pokesin's counter, here we go, boys and girls. So Pokesin number 1. At one point, when Ryan Reynolds is doing his Pikachu talk thing, which I enjoyed Ryan Reynolds' Pikachu a lot more than I expected to, honestly.
I like Ryan Reynolds in general, so I was into it.
Yeah, kind of side note. I wasn't sure about the casting choice in the trailer, but I ended up being into it. So, back to our sin. Pikachu at one point is going on and rambling and doing some like improv stuff. And he mentions something about France at one point. Now, this may lead you to believe that this is a Pokemon world that is more in line with our like real world, in that real locations still exist. Kind of like how before Gen 2 sort of codified everything, Gen 1 was supposed to be just like Japan, and so had like real animals and shit as well as Pokemon. So Pikachu mentions France. However, we know that this isn't the real world, but with Pokemon. We know that this is the Pokemon world because in the bedroom that Tim has made up for him from his dad, there is a poster for the Sinnoh Championships. And you can't explain that. Pokesin won. Ding, France should be Kalos. I'm really doing this, aren't I? Okay.
My oh my. What a sin. No.
Dead to me. All right. So yeah, Pokesin number 2. We gotta talk about Charizard, my main man, my main squeeze, my favorite Pokemon, because I am the basic ass nostalgic bitch. However, I'm here today to make the case for Charizard, and what the appeal is. I've got it down to a science, folks, and so here it is. Here's the problem with.
I feel like we need to play the like Danganronpa music in the background right now, like the presenting evidence.
Please actually do it. So, the thing about Charizard is that both supporters and detractors alike say like, oh man, like Charizard is just a dragon. And when you like Charizard, it comes from like, oh, sick, I get a cool dragon. And when you don't like him, he's like, he's boring, he's just a dragon. But the thing about Charizard is that he lies at the perfect crossroads, the perfect synthesis of cool dragon and cute, cuddly little creature. Because that's what's hype about him, is that you get Charmander, who is this adorable little guy with his little tail flame. And he goes, Charmander! And it's real sweet, and you want to give him a hug. And when he evolves and he gets his wings and he can soar through the skies and gets like a Saiyan rough and tumble battle personality, you're like, oh shit, like Charmander's all grown up. But the thing is that like, it's not just that he looks cool, although he does. Charizard is more like the Joseph Gribble of Pokemon, in that, in theory, after his growth spurt, he's very ferocious and very tough. But like, at his core, he's still a complete goober. Like, if you look at the elements of Charizard's design that make him appealing, that make him still kind of cute, in addition to being tough and big, you look at stuff like his eyes, which still, like, have a lot of that, like, Charmander sort of innocence to them, depending on how he's drawn. You look at, like, his big old chonky belly, and, like, his weird stubby little legs. He's kind of goofy looking, and that's the appeal, is that even though you have, like, a big tough dragon who can smoke all your opponents, he's still kind of cute. And you can see this a lot, I think, in Smash Ultimate, when you win as Charizard and the Pokemon trainer's petting him, and he's got, like, a doggo face, and it's great. So here's what every, like, serious rendition of Charizard gets wrong, especially this movie, because as much as I hate to say it, like, Charizard's my favorite Pokemon, but he was probably my least favorite design in this movie. And, Sean, I don't know, like, in the show notes, if you want to actually put that edit I posted, but,
it will be on both our Twitter, and I will link to it on, I'll link to their actual DeviantArt page in the show notes.
Perfect. Thanks, pal. Yeah, you can see in the edit, like, just comparing a more, like, true to the text interpretation of Charizard versus the Detective Pikachu Charizard, is that, like, the actual Detective Pikachu Charizard, he's not as chunky. His head looks a lot more like a Tyrannosaurus. He doesn't have, like, kind of the snoot that he does in the original design, and his eyes are a lot more, like, reptilian and fearsome looking and not as anime, which is weird because a lot of the Pokemon still got to keep their anime eyes, like Bulbasaur in particular did.
Bulbasaur has the biggest fucking eyes.
He really does. But yeah, so that's the problem with this rendition of Charizard, and to a lesser extent, like, the Pokken Tournament rendition of Charizard, and, like, every, like, realistic Charizard fan art you'll see, basically. They try too hard to make him look cool and lose what's actually appealing about him in the process that makes him more appealing than, like, just a dragon. So that's Pokeset number 2. They fucked up Charizard in the way that everyone does. I don't know if that actually counts as a real Pokesin, but we're going with it while I'm rattling off my nitpicky fucking complaints.
I was gonna say, this is exactly what this is for. Just fucking bullshit that you didn't like that has no real bearing on the movie.
It really doesn't. So, Pokesin number 3, Mewtwo, who features prominently, is called the most powerful Pokemon by a man standing under a statue of Arceus. Like, I think earlier in the movie even, or maybe it was later, like, Pikachu actually makes a fun little joke. I laugh when he, like, stubs his toe and he's like, Arceus, ow! Like, he does that, and it's cute. But there's a literal poke god. Like, I know Mewtwo's supposed to be a tough customer, like, able to hang with the best of them, despite being man-made. But I'm pretty sure that, like, he hasn't been canonically the strongest in a long time.
I think in counterpoint to that, though, like, I actually saw that and thought the exact same thing. But I think in counterpoint, like, people have, like, just statues of Jesus behind them at times. It doesn't necessarily mean that, like, he's alive and running around the world right now.
That's fair. That's a fair point. Or even, like, sort of the way that I thought about it. Like I said, this is the nitpicky bullshit variety hour. So the way that I sort of rationalized that was, like, even if it's not just a thing of myth, like, Arceus and Dialga and Palkia might not even be seen as Pokemon at that point. Like, like, the fact that they are so, like, godly and, like, seen as deities could put them in, like, a separate classification. I know in the games, obviously, they're not, but I don't really know how the anime treats them.
I was gonna say, I mean, the games treat Ultra Beasts as Pokemon, and they're, like, extra dimensional beings, so.
Yeah, so, like, I mean, this definitely seems to be taking a lot more cues from the anime and how it presents things. Like, there's some nice jokes in there for, like, from the games, but primarily, like, Psyduck also features prominently and acts a lot like he does in the anime. Like, obviously the speaking their own, like, name through their voice is an anime convention. The near human intelligence is more of an anime convention. Yeah, so that seems to be like the version of the world that we're experiencing here.
Did you see this movie in like a crowded theater, or was it just you?
It wasn't super crowded, but I wasn't alone either.
Were there kids there?
No, because I went in like the middle of the afternoon on Monday.
Okay, we saw it in a theater with a bunch of kids, and might be one of the few times that I think having kids there really increased the quality of the experience.
I believe it.
Because like when there was a Psyduck on, at one point I heard a kid go "Sai-ai-ai," and then the mom goes "Shh," and then like I heard a couple of those around there, and like there was just a couple of times where like a kid would be like, "It's a Greninja!" early out, like there was a Greninja standing in like near the sushi stand, and I heard one of them do that, and like I'd hear it like echo around this theater a couple times. Like it was pretty cute. I'm not normally like a fan of people talking in movies, but like I kind of dug it this time, and like it was just funny listening to people be like, "Look, there's that Pokemon I love," and you know what? I'm not gonna stop you. I'm an old codger, but I'm not gonna stop you for that one.
Aww. No, I mean, I really wish I had that kind of experience now that I think about it. Although I will say, like, you know, as far as bringing up Greninja, the I like that's a good example for a lot of the way the movie does like the Shrek thing of like kind of making jokes and references and callbacks that only the older audience would get, because like was it just me or were they totally doing Aliens but with Greninja in the research facility? Like with like the watery dribble everywhere and then like, you know, squirming around on the ceilings and stuff.
No, it definitely had some alien vibe to it. Like I thought the exact same thing actually, especially when it dripped like that. I'm like, oh my god, yeah, this is just fucking Alien, which I was not against.
No, and I gotta say, that the sequence involving the giant Torterra after that was fucking sick. That was cool.
Do you have any more sins, or can I use that as a segue?
There's one more, but this is. I think this gets into a more serious discussion, but I'm just going to do it here to round it out. So Pokesin number 4, the entire plot hinges upon Mewtwo's ability to trade souls. But as far as I know, this has never been a, like, well-known thing that Mewtwo has been able to do, part of his power set, and any previous iteration of the character. So the fact that, like, the entire plot hinges on it, and it's just like this ability is explained in a hand-wavy line of dialogue, incredibly weird. That's that.
Yeah, no, it's fucking bizarre. But like I kind of rolled with it. Sam is currently playing the Detective Pikachu game, and like I think there's still some implication that Mewtwo can do that in there, but I don't know for sure.
All right.
But yeah, no, I mean it's still kind of a bizarre thing that he can just do in this for some reason. But on a broader, more actual criticism level, the Torterra Garden, I think, is a really good place to kind of start off with this stuff. Because the third act is where the movie kind of loses me in a lot of ways. And it's really the end of the second act that kicks the whole thing going. Because the Torterra Garden is this whole big thing. It's really cool. Like you can tell it's the Torterra's moving and stuff like that, and it's kind of tense, and there's some interesting stuff going on there. And then they just go back to sleep, and it just ends. Like there's no actual real resolution to it. It just kind of stops itself. Like it doesn't. They could have had like a poke flute or something that would have been like a nod to the fans and like the people who know what's going on. But no, the Torterra just like, you know what? I'm going back to bed now. That was cool. Time for sleep. And so like there was just like some things like that where like it just kind of felt like the action just died all of a sudden. It's a kids movie, I recognize, but it's still definitely a flaw within said kids movie. And additionally, the third act is where it really goes off the rails from it's a movie about a detective that has Pikachu in it to this is a Pokemon movie. It's about Pokemon. Pokemon are doing things now. And it's kind of a bummer for me. Like, once again, I totally acknowledge that this is a kid's movie. This is the type of thing where, like, it needs to be in there for the kids. I think it works as a third act for kids and whatnot, but being a 25-year-old watching Detective Pikachu in the theater, I just would like a little more nuance in my detective stories. I don't want it ending with explosions and purple gas. What is this? Fucking Dark Knight Rises?
Speaking of incredibly British voices, did you think that the son of the business magnate sounded a lot like Liquid Snake? Because I sure did, and even stayed for the credits to see if it was a shaved Cam Clark playing him.
I did not.
I thought he did. I was really hoping it was Liquid Snake.
I would like to include one of my own sins, my own horse sins.
Fuck yeah.
Ditto is a fucking abomination. This is just something that I really didn't like. Because the first time we saw Ditto, I thought, oh, Ditto, he's so cute. Like, just chilling off on the side. It's adorable. I like the way it looks. And then I thought it was just kind of like a little nod for people who like Ditto and stuff like that. And then it turned into a fucking person, and I physically recoiled in my seat. I could not handle it.
Especially because the primary form that Ditto took was like the secret agent lady, who the big bad CEO guy absolutely fucked at one point.
Which we should also specify, if you have somehow gotten this far and don't know what we're talking about, the big bad CEO guy is Bill Nighy, so you know he's the bad guy. Like, as soon as I saw Bill Nighy, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So, that's the villain. He's kind of like Mark Strong in that, like, you see him and you're like, oh, okay, so he's the villain. We know who he is.
Yeah. Ditto fucks, guys.
Oh, God, it does, and I hate it. I really don't like it. You've been talking a lot about, like, consent and Pokemon on your streams, and, like, here you go.
I was gonna say, this is just the people want it. The people want their Alakazam porno.
Oh, fuck me running. One other thing I just kind of want to talk about more from just a standpoint of, like, cinematography and how shots were constructed and stuff. For the most part, I was really into the movie and didn't really feel any flow breaks or anything. But there was just one or two times where I was suddenly taken aback by how flat the shot looked. And it reminded me that I was in a movie. Like, the whole thing just kind of felt very, like, put the camera in my face and here it is. There's no depth to the shot. The whole thing just is presented on the screen as it is. And it really just kind of like slapped me back into reality. And it's one of those things where you really see it in kids' movies, where it's just kind of that reminder that you're watching a kids' movie. And I don't know. It's one of those things where I need to like rewatch this movie to take a look at it to get a better explanation as to what about those scenes do it. But there's just certain scenes where like it's not even scenes, it's shots. It's like individual shots where you look at it and you go, oh, okay, yeah, this is a kid's movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely, I definitely feel what you're saying. I'm definitely picking up what you're throwing down here. And I guess, like, if I had to make, like, I don't know if this counts as a legitimate criticism. This feels more like a legitimate criticism since we're starting to talk about, like, ending stuff. I do generally agree that, like, the last act is the weakest part. And, like, my whole thing was that, like, as soon as, like, the body swapping stuff got introduced, I mean, like, I hadn't given too much thought about, like, why Pikachu could talk or, like, you know, like the connection with him and the dad. So, like, I'm sure like it was obvious to Haley way earlier, but, like, as soon as
Sam too, what the hell?
Yeah, no, but, like, so Pikachu's the dad, and I just don't like that turn. It feels, I don't know, like it feels like it robs a little bit of that kind of that kind of relationship with the main character between him and the Pikachu. I like the idea of this just being like a weird Pikachu, or like, you know, maybe there was an experiment done to explain why the main character can understand him, and it's like genetic with the dad or something like that.
You know what it is?
What?
It takes away the magic.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I would have rather that had not been explained at all, honestly. Like, I just had the dad. Like, I'm fine with the dad being alive because it's a kid's movie. And I do think that the scene of him talking about, like, him never being able to reconcile with his dad was surprisingly effective. But so, like, I'm fine with that, but I just would have preferred... Like that scene where, like, he's talking to the Bulbasaur, like, that was my favorite scene because they're all really cute and they're leading him to Mewtwo, and he finally, like, has a connection with the Pokemon, and that's a fine character arc for the lad to have. I'm good with that. I don't know, like, it feels like I think the relationship between him and Pikachu is like what really makes the movie, like, I think. Beyond all the Pokemon stuff, like, work well enough for me to enjoy the Pokemon stuff. And I don't know, the fact that it's just been daddy issues all along is a little weird. I don't know why they made Pokemon a daddy issues movie. It's a strange choice to me. Not necessarily a terrible one, but
they did say that you can't have daddy issues without daddy in it, and whew. That was a sentence to your Pikachu say.
I love that lie.
It awoke some things within me. Something I understand.
But yeah, that's my biggest criticism, I guess. My biggest real criticism.
As I said, joking aside, the third act is really where it's kind of just turns into a bummer. It loses a lot of the charm that kind of elevates it above a kids movie and becomes a nostalgia-ridden kids movie for kids and adults and fans of Pokemon. And just kind of goes back to being a kids movie. So, like, it's still not really a general audience thing. Like, the ending, I feel like, more than anything, is just gonna throw the rest of the general audience for a fucking loop. As they're like, wait, what the fuck? Why can this Pokemon talk? Why is this one able to talk to seemingly everyone?
I hadn't even thought about that.
What the fuck is going on? How is it putting their bodies together? What's happening to their bodies? What is going on? What? Excuse me. What? Pardon me. I am lost. So the ending, I think, is just where it gets a little rough. I don't know. Rob Letterman also did Shark Tale. That's not related to literally anything right now. I just needed to mention that.
Name a bigger upgrade. You can't.
Like, I needed to say it. I don't know how he got the fucking Detective Pikachu gig. It makes no goddamn sense to me. He did Shark Tale. Fucking Shark Tale.
You think that man's career would have been sunk?
He did Shark Tale.
All right. We're veering dangerously close into wrapping up territory if we're talking about Shark Tale. But there's one last thing I want to talk about.
All right, lay it on me.
So Bill Nighy's plan, with a few tweaks, is absolutely perfect.
All right.
So because his whole motivation is that he wants to abandon these feeble flesh sacks known as human bodies to unite people in Pokemon and evolve into the best possible versions of ourselves. And this is actually a great plan. So the tweaks needed to make this a great plan and not an evil plan is, one, you offer this service like consensually. Like, you get people to sign up. Like, you can pay to become a Pokemon. And furthermore, the second thing that you do is
and
that
before you get into the second thing, consent for Pokemon.
That's exactly what my second thing was. I was gonna say is that so the problem with the plan right now is that, you know, Pokemon have near human to human to superhuman even intelligence. So robbing them of their like own mind and body is not good. However, since you're a big, you know, evil genius billionaire dude, just make Mewtwo's but without the consciousness. Just make empty Pokemon bodies without any sort of consciousness that you can put people into, and you could do several variations for people to choose from. So like if you want to be like a Machamp and be really swole, you can do that. If you want to like fly around like a Pidgeotto, you can do that. But just like make clone copies of them without any consciousness, so there's no like ethical considerations of like overriding an existing consciousness. And then you, instead of forcing everyone to do it, you just offer it as a service that people can pay for and make even more money and become a hero who has bridged the gap between man and Pokemon.
What the fuck did I just watch that was literally this plot? I just watched something that is basically beat for beat what you just described. And
Wait, really?
I don't know what it was. Yeah.
I mean, now that you mention it, that sounds kind of familiar to me too.
I mean, it's like a super generic science fiction plot. Let's be first and foremost real here.
It is a super generic science fiction plot. But what I'm saying is that Bill Nye did nothing wrong.
Well, I think he did one thing wrong, which is consent.
I mean, this just gets back into the debate we've been having on our streams. Can Pokemon consent?
I would like to specify something here really quick. Our streams is a misnomer. I believe you mean your stream.
I'm pretty sure I've invaded your stream with my poison.
Oh my god. All right, well, if you want to chime in for that. Is there anything else you want to say?
Nah, I'm good. I just wanted to put that idea out there. Transhumanism, baby.
There you go. I don't know. I mean, I guess just as a quick wrap up, I just want to say that it's a solid movie. Like, Jackson has a bunch of little nitpicks that just because he's a giant nerd for Pokemon, much like I've had like weird little nitpicks with other movies just because I'm a giant nerd for those things. It doesn't really add up to anything of like consequence. If you're a fan of the genre, if you're a little kid, first and foremost, what are you doing listening to this? We say, fuck, way too much for you to be listening to this. Go tell your mom and dad that you're listening to this and have them take your iPod away. And then go watch Pokemon Detective Pikachu because it's charming. You'll probably enjoy it. And, I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it. There's a couple of moments that are weird in terms of cinematography. The ending falls apart a little bit, but not in any way that, like, ruins the rest of the movie. It's just kind of like, an underwhelming finish.
It's like a Marvel third act.
Yeah, but, like, worse, in my opinion.
I mean, personally, the fact that it is a Marvel third act, but with Pokemon, makes it better for me. And I would like to clarify that despite all my Pokesins trademarked, that is not meant in any way to imply that those sins like heavily weighed on me. Mostly I wanted to mention some bullshit for memes. I loved it. I had a real great time, and I would even see it again. Pokemon. I want to cuddle up with them and turn into one.
I'm pretty sure that's just straight up a line from a Pokefan in one of the games.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
Well, I've been Sean McKinda. You can find me on Twitter at Sean_McKinda. Is that my fucking Twitter account? I feel like I've changed it every week. It is Sean_McKinda.
I was gonna say, I think that's right.
You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/helpus_Skippy. I'm going to be starting playing Danganronpa 3 the day that this episode goes live. So if you feel like watching that for not next week's episode, but next month's episode, you can come hang out for that. And also my website, isortof.com. I haven't been posting a whole lot of stuff there. I'm working on doing some upgrades to it right now, so keep your eyes on that. My writing is a lot of the time over at 25yearslatersite.com. Go check that out. I just wrote a big article about Bloodborne and like Metroid and even Mario a little bit and like inventing your own narrative and story and stuff. So go read it.
And I'm Jackson Keller. You can find me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/JacksonJKeller, where I sometimes go on and stream a Pokemon Red Nuzlocke. And on Wednesdays, I go over to Sean's channel and co-host a Pokemon Emerald Nuzlocke with him. And I also go to my friend Connor's channel and do random bullshit with him at twitch.tv/Genghis_Con_. Don't forget the second underscore, it's important. And we just have a great time. Please watch us.
If you'd like to get in contact with Jackson any other way, option 1 is at BADHcast on Twitter. It's where we tweet out updates, news, anything like that. I run the account, so if you want to get in contact with Jackson that way, tweet at me. I'll pass on any information I can to him. Option 2 is at our Patreon exclusive Discord. You can get access to that by going to patreon.com/BADHcast. Any tier will get you access to the Discord. If you are a stallion or a cult, you can get access to our bonus episodes, as well as to give us suggestions for upcoming episodes.
Yes. Thank you so much to our $10 patrons. We got Julia, we got Travis, we got my lovely mom, Autumn Keller, we got Summer, my lovely aunt. Thanks, family. One day I'll amount to something. And that's it. Be one of these lovely people and get a special shout out from us to you. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Other than that, we'd also like to thank Lords of the Highway for the use of our theme song. It is Suicide Alternate Take off the album High Octane Low Expectations. They're a wonderful band. Go check them out. They got a bunch of stuff all over Spotify, the other places that you can get music. I don't know. I don't know where to get music anymore. I get mine from Spotify now. But you should totally patron them. They're fucking great. They're a great band. They got a bunch of really cool stuff out there. Also, thanks to 25yearslatersite.com for endorsing us. You guys are a wonderful site full of a bunch of wonderful, really cool people on there. So go take a look at what they're writing, including me, but also them as well, because a lot of them are way more talented than I am. But they write about everything from TV shows to movies to literally anything that anyone might want to talk about. They're starting to talk more about games, in case the fact that I wrote about Bloodborne isn't obvious. As we said, next week we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy VII live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at twitch.tv/helpless_Skippy. Come hang out for that. We do a usual episode and then we open it up to Q&A for anybody else who might want to listen in. So come join us for that. Jackson, anything else?
Pikachu sings the theme song at one point, and that made me laugh.
Bye.
Don't you go into the ground. Don't you go into the grave.